Hey everybody and welcome to Crossover Event. We're back. Me, Chris Cox, and him, Martin Thomas. Hey Martin.
Hey, Chris.
How you doing?
Doing pretty well. Pretty well.
Right
Yourself?
Oh, I can't complain. I'm happy to be here and talk about some of the stuff we've got on board today for this episode. Our big story is going to be talking about what exactly is going on with this whole Marvel Sony thing. Who owns what? Who's going to be in what? And there's some interesting stuff that's dropped recently about that, so we're going to explain it to you. But then, before we do that, we're going to talk about, well, that Hawkeye trailer. What is going to be happening in that Hawkeye miniseries? And then talk about great miniseries everyone's excited about, the Book of Boba Fett, the spinoff of The Mandalorian. We got the trailer for that, and we're going to take a deep dive into that. And next, we're going to talk to a friend of ours about how they feel about that new casting. Oh man, I'm kind of excited about it myself. With Daniel Day Kim from Lost, I love Lost, playing the lead baddie in Avatar: The Last Airbender, the live-action adaptation for Netflix. What could go wrong with a live-action Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Yeah, that's always worked out so well in the past.
Always been easy. But before we get to all that, let's go back to the beginning and talk about this trailer.
And that was the Hawkeye trailer. Or I feel like saying Hawkeyes, because we have both Clint Barton and Kate Bishop, as we see, played by Jeremy Renner and Haley Steinfeld. What do you think, Chris?
You know what? So far, Martin, I gotta say, I'm actually pretty excited about what we're seeing here in this trailer. First off, I love me a good Christmas genre thing, you know? Like, I'm not the world's biggest fan of Christmas on paper. Like, I don't need to watch Hallmark's regular
You know Shane
assortment.
Black's not doing this one, right?
I am aware that Shane Black is not, well,
Although
you know,
you couldn't tell that by looking at the trailer.
But you know who is doing it is actually being showrun by the guy who was the executive story editor for Mad Men, which is one of my favorite shows ever. And here's a guy who knows how to balance storytelling. And I don't know, man. I love the original comic book this is based on by Matt Fraction. It just the beginning of this secondary Hawkeye character comes in and sort of, I'm such a big fan, Clint, but appears at least ostensibly wearing the costume that was the one we see him wear in the last couple Avengers films, where he was dressed up as
Ronin.
Right? Where he was going around killing people and being sort of a mercenary badass.
Yeah, he was in his edgelord phase.
He was a little edgelordy, that is for sure. So what is the deal with that? Or due to some examination of the editing here, is that even in fact really Haley Steinfeld's character wearing that? Because there's a lot of speculation that it's actually a new character being introduced to the MCU, but not in comics, called Echo.
Right. Because there was a time period where Echo, at least in the comics, was Ronin taken over between Clint and Daredevil and Echo all switching out on who was playing who at times. It seems like a good way to bring her in. I don't know. You're saying there's creative editing in the trailer. I'm not so sure about that. So much of the trailer looks kind of straightforward. And there's no reason to not think that it was not, Kate Bishop in the suit.
I mean, maybe so, but these things can be pretty damn tricky as well. And there's a lot of secrets that if you know about the lore that seem pretty well hidden. For instance, Vera Farmiga plays Haley Steinfeld's mom in this. And in the comics, she is like a seriously villainous character.
Yeah.
She's this rich lady who ended up being the one who was funding Kate Bishop's big nemesis, Madame Mask, and as well, maybe a vampire. I think it's still,
is that settled?
They still haven't settled it.
Okay.
Yet,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. It's weird to have a vampire as your hold card and still never play it.
And then Echo as well is getting her own spin-off series. That actress is already signed on for a whole nother Disney Plus series at some point surrounding her character. It's interesting.
All that actress has to do is stay off Twitter, and that gig can work out really well for her.
She was still first introduced in Daredevil, but then later ended up becoming a Hawkeye nemesis. And her whole thing is that much like Taskmaster, she can imitate anything that anybody else is doing. But she's also interesting because, well, the actress has a prosthetic leg and she's deaf.
Right. I mean, that was the thing about Echo is that Daredevil's blind, but she's deaf. And that's how, she came into the whole picture to begin with. Something I'm really excited about with this is having Tony Dalton as the swordsman.
Yes.
The guy who trains Hawkeye. And just you look at Tony Dalton and you see that little pencil mustache and the way he was Lalo Salamanca on Better Call Saul. You go like, man, I'm more excited about this casting than maybe the rest of this show. And I'm excited about this show.
It does look pretty good, and I love me a good Archer story. So let's hope that this has been as good as, at least for me, the previous Marvel Disney Plus shows have been. And I know that Jeremy Renner's been saying since day one, "Hey, I kind of want to do a Hawkeye series. Anybody?" Well, they listen. So,
well, hey, when somebody is not getting their due, which Hawkeye has not gotten, he's always the butt of the Avengers jokes. Like, why do you even have this guy on the team? This will be something that'll get everybody excited.
I was as shocked as anybody that essentially Jon Favreau once again swooped in and saved another franchise with the Mandalorian miniseries. The 2 seasons have been just phenomenal.
They have.
So good, right?
Yeah.
Nobody was more surprised than me to find out how good, in fact, they were. So I was not surprised to see when they reintroduced Tamura Morrison as Boba Fett towards the end of the last season. And they're like, oh, well, now he's going to kind of do his own thing. He's going to go and, be Boba Fett in a cool way with, the follow-up of Return of the Jedi. What did happen with Jabba and all his stuff? Power vacuum, as it were. And he's still teamed up in this new The Book of Boba Fett show with Ming-Na Wen as Fennec Shand, who previously appeared in the animated series The Bad Batch as a much younger character. But now we see where he has stepped in. He goes literally at the end of The Mandalorian, he kills Jabba's number 2 guy who had taken over. Just flat out kills him, sits in the big chair, is like, oh, you're my little puppet now.
Well, I love anything where somebody takes over and becomes a benevolent leader. That really does it for me.
But that's the thing. Does it ever work out how they plan? The whole
you got to be in for the long haul.
I'm gonna be the leader who's the good leader. This is gonna be easy.
It only works if you stick it out.
And we know it's not going to be easy. In fact, he's going to be dealing with a whole slew of new baddies, of new people vying for that throne. Sure. And this is all taking place in Jabba's old palace, which...
a lot of ghosts there.
Well, indeed. But there's a little Easter egg right at the beginning of this trailer with a sort of robot spider with a red bulb under it. Mm-hmm. So what that is, and we saw those, and I think it may have been only in the recut version of Return of the Jedi. But
is it in the recut when it's not in the original?
But it's in the extended universe. It's a group of monks who originally built Jabba's palace as a monastery, and their whole deal is they don't want to have any earthly pleasures, so they have their brains removed and put in these red bulbs full of fluid, and whenever they want to walk around outside, they attach it to these robot spiders. So it looks like they're going to be one of the groups maybe who are coming in going, that's my house.
Oh, that'd be cool. I mean, I don't know what they could do in spider bodies, but hey, we've seen weirder in Star Wars.
That's true. And
especially that whole spider body thing. Is that the new theme of all these movies now?
Spiders are big, man.
Okay. I mean, they said that with the Wild Wild West, and it turned out not to be true.
Tom Holland as robot spider. So we had another story, but I'll be damned, I can't remember who was coming in to talk about it.
Me.
Oh, jeez.
She did it again.
Why do you keep doing that?
It's my favorite.
Time.
What do you think?
Okay. All right.
It's good.
What
it's
is
good
it?
for you. Get your heart rate up.
She can say that
It's
again
fun.
until it just stops one day.
I just know I'm going to be in the shower one day and you're going to do that.
Dream on, Martin.
So let me have this.
What were you going to talk to us about today?
I'm very excited to talk about a new casting for the upcoming Netflix Avatar: The Last Airbender series. It is live action. I have feelings, you guys. I have feelings.
Well, you were a big fan
Please.
of the shows, I assume.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with the shows, I think is the accurate portrayal. I was a little nervous because there have been some disagreements between the original cartoon creative team and Netflix. So I am a little... I'm tentative about this news, but I absolutely love Daniel Day Kim, who has been cast to play the incredibly terrifying Fire Lord Ozai.
And it seems like perfect casting. It's funny about that disagreement, because it's one of those things where if the show works out, then we'll look at the creator and go that guy was throwing a hissy fit. And if it doesn't, we're like, well, he tried to tell him.
Should have listened to him the whole time, right?
Yeah, it could go either way. And I think that in the end, as long as they're loyal to the original source material, which is the mistake that I think the live action movie that will not be named made. Just really staying true to the spirit of the source material, to the Avatar spirit of the source material.
And Daniel Day Kim is great casting as the big bad.
He is.
Fire Lord Ozai is a particularly difficult character to cast because you have some really big shoes to fill, right? You've got Mark Hamill, who did the voice, which I actually watched Avatar: The Last Airbender 3 or 4 times before I realized that was him. And then once you hear it, you can never unhear it. But, Hamill's animation and his voice acting is so brilliant, but so cartoony, right? It works perfect for animation. But in this universe, in this iteration of Fire Lord Ozai is going to have to be very different from the cartoon version because it's not a cartoon. So I'm really eager and excited to see what direction Daniel Day-Kim takes this character, because he's an incredible actor. So
Sure.
he really could do just about anything with the character. And
he's no stranger to this either. It's his second time voicing a character with the Avatar series, where he was in one episode of the original series as a character, and then he was in about 6 or 7 episodes in Legend of Korra, voicing a character in there.
which character did he voice in Legend of Korra?
Oh, you
Yeah,
can't expect
Chris,
me to remember
which
everything.
character
Come
was
on.
it? Smart guy,
Well,
you know
actually,
so much.
I'm surprised that I don't know this, because every time I go back and watch Avatar or every time I will go back and watch Legend of Korra, I'm like, oh my god, I know that voice. Like, I know who that is. That makes sense to me. So I'm very curious.
People
Well,
say they're fans, but
Yeah,
when it comes down to
she's the one.
questions,
I just took notes. I don't know what to tell you, Martin. That's it, and that's all I got for my notes. Was like he was in Legend of Korra as well. Speaking of Legend of Korra, hey guys, I want to give a job to my girl Janet Varney, my good friend, who my mustard buddy. She knows.
your
You know
mustard buddy.
Janet. It's
I
a
have
long
no idea what
story.
that
Yeah,
is.
long story.
Oh, this just in from our production team.
Oh God.
So he did the voice of Hiroshi Sato.
Oh, there you
Yeah,
go.
so he created the Sato Mobile.
Told you.
He was Asami's. Oh, and now I'm never going to be able to unhear it again. He was Asami's dad, who got a really nice little redemption arc
Oh,
there
yeah,
at
yeah,
the end.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have the warm fuzzies now.
Aw.
Oh, he was
But-
bad, but then he good.
And this is being show run by the guy who did Sleepy Hollow, which I know led to a
Oh.
rather ignominious end in terms of canceled. But it was
Yeah,
fun
it's-
while it lasted.
It's a Fox show. Of course, it was going to get canceled.
Yeah, I think that's less on the director, because there are a lot of creative and stylistic aspects of Sleepy Hollow that I really liked.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah, I
actually
dug
thought
it.
were pretty bold
Mm-hmm.
for just like your run-of-the-mill Fox show. I think that was just more of a matter of like putting the wrong thing in the wrong place, in
Yeah.
the wrong spot.
Oscar winner Jared Leto is Michael Morbius, the living vampire. It's always struck me odd that phrasing.
I mean, it's a tech vampire, so technically
Right.
he didn't have to die to become a
Right,
vampire.
right. Not in a traditional sense, more created by science and all. This is, another one of Spider-Man's villains who is now getting his own movie. And is he a villain or is he an anti-hero? I don't know. I'm going to be honest. When I see this trailer, I like most of it. I was surprised about how much of it I like. It's only when they get to the all right, now he's a hero stuff where I get a little cold.
It's got a Blade feel to it, to be sure, like the initial Blade to some level. But I think if you know enough about this character, and the guy who appears for a split second in the trailer, Matt Smith, Doctor Who, who's playing Loxias Crown, who is his best friend, another scientist, another guy who suffers from a rare blood disease that he was trying to cure through science. And you know that guy turns into like a total supervillain. Everything in this trailer says, guess what? All this stuff about we think Morbius, who's now like part vampire, is killing people and he's got to be hunted down. It's not him.
No, it's going to be a setup because they want you to like the guy and buy his lunchboxes. The more interesting thing is seeing Michael Keaton return as the Vulture, as he was in Spider-Man: Homecoming. So with what happens at the post-credit scene of Venom, where it clearly crosses over into the MCU Spider-Man with J. Jonah Jameson appearing, we have to go, all right, MCU and Sony completely bid partners now? Because with Venom, it looked like it was probably playing into the whole multiverse thing. But this with the Vulture seems just like a legit no multiverse, no magic. Like, it's just a thing that's happening. They really have crossed over.
Well, the end of Venom 2 seemed to indicate that this is going to play into the multiversiness. Like, Venom wasn't in the Spider-Man universe, but now he is. But then there's a scene in the Morbius trailer where he walks by a picture of Spider-Man on the wall that has written on it "murderer" over it.
Yeah.
I'm like, so wait, maybe he's already in that universe? Either way, the important thing is there was a deal that led to Spider-Man being able to come over and do these movies with Marvel.
To these extended play dates.
Exactly. But the deal ended with the last Spider-Man film, and everybody was kind of like assuming they would make this work because the most successful Sony Pictures film of all time was the last Spider-Man film by a giant margin. And so you're like, well, there's no way they're going to let this deal fall. And in fact, they did. The deal completely collapsed. It was kept secret from the crew and staff until it wasn't. And it came out. Fans freaked out. Everybody freaked out. Tom Holland freaked out. And this guy became a real life superhero. He said, no.
It's not going down like that.
It's not going down like that.
Yeah.
He called in the heads of Disney, like Tom Holland can do this, called in the heads of Disney and Sony and said to them, hey, this will not do. We're going to sit here and we're going to work this out today. And you know what? They did. They worked it out with a brand new deal. I like to think
that he made a Bill Murray speech.
Right.
They got everybody on board.
Yeah.
He at one point climbed on the table and was throwing stuff around. But the new deal sets up, and I'm not exactly sure for how long it goes on, but it makes that Disney now pays 25% of the future Spider-Man films and gets 25% of the profits, which is a different deal than before. As well, now for the first time, Kevin Feige will be directly overseeing and involved in executive producing those Sony spin-off films, which can't be anything but better.
As long as you tell me that Venom, Let There Be Carnage wasn't his first try at it. Because otherwise, I have no faith in the rest of this.
I suspect the demarcation point was them watching those films and saying, wow, these aren't really that great. And I don't think we want them as part of the MCU. And them going, well, we could use some help. And now it looks like, okay, fine. We'll bring in your Venoms and your Morbiuses, and you're now coming up Aaron Taylor Johnson playing Kraven the Hunter in an upcoming film. We'll bring all that into the MCU proper. But, we got to have like the little finger on the table.
It just that whole deal just sounds so much to me like your kids' friends, rich parents saying, "Listen, we have the resources to take better care of your kid than you do. So just let him live with us without, just sign him over to us." And you're like, no, I'm not doing that. But if you want to throw some funds our way, we could use those.
Well, what do you think, Danny? I mean, are you as cynical as I think I actually am about this whole thing?
I'm a little cynical, but not because of the MCU's involvement in the Sony universe. In fact, I think it is very helpful for the Sony universe because they kind of haven't really been able to figure out their tone and what to do. And Marvel in the MCU is really great at establishing a voice and patterns. And especially in this fourth phase, as they're sort of busting out of some of those patterns, it sort of feels very charitable and helpful for fans for them to be like, oh, here, Sony, let us help you. And I'm excited that they're going in a direction of, because it's so easy to pick any kind of a villain that's already been represented in the Spider-Man universe. And, we have No Way Home coming up, and there's a lot of speculation about the Sinister Six showing up and kind of who that sixth member could possibly be. Is it Mysterio? Is it Mephisto? Is it the Vulture, who is making an appearance again in the Sony universe? Is it the Rhino, who absolutely no one asked for or wants to see ever again? And I think and one of the only, the fact that they are going darker on the Sony side does point to maybe it actually being Mephisto. It's one of the few tiny little grasps that Mephisto fans are sort of latching onto. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for them to explore a lot of great characters. I absolutely vehemently hate the casting of Jared Leto. I think after the way that he behaved towards his Suicide Squad co-workers, he should not have been given that work. He should not have been validated and cast again in this part of performance space.
I'm gonna beat up his beauty like we did in Fight Club.
But that is a greater Hollywood conversation that is more about listening to people when they call out abuse and paying attention to that stuff and making sure that there are consequences for people who do stupid, shitty things. But apart from that, I am really, really excited for this because it's really easy to play it safe with Spider-Man villains and Spider-Man stories. And if I didn't know, Morbius is one of the last characters I would have guessed for them to choose. And that part of my brain that sounds like, Hedy Lamarr from Blazing Saddles is kinky.
You know, the guys who are writing this are the same guys who wrote Dracula Untold, so take that as you will.
Yeah, this creative team, I'm not excited about it all.
Not really, no.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you know what? I think the point is not so much how this film does as what's the films are going to look like going forward from here now that this deal has actually been solidified and Feige and company were actually paying closer attention to what's going on. And what's really upsetting about finding out the history of Sony working with Marvel properties is from the beginning, CEO Tom Rothman said, yeah, we're kind of looking into ways to save money, cut costs, do this cheaper and easier and faster. And I'm like, when has that ever been a good way to make movies?
But it's what you got to tell the stockholders.
I guess so. But you know what we've gotten? Well, two films that made a really just giant fuck ton of money that weren't very good.
You know, wake me up when Spider-Gwen gets her movie.
Oh,
I'll
seriously.
be having my nap over here until then.
Well, that is going to do it for this episode of Crossover Event. If you want to see further discussion about what we expect to see coming up with Sony's villains, then go to oneofus.net, become a subscriber at the brown coat level or above, and you get a little bit of a bonus of us talking about that. But until then, I'm Chris Cox.
I'm Martin Thomas.
I'm Danny Danger.
And we'll see you again soon.